Okay, so let's start. In the meantime, people will join us. First of all, thank you all for attending today our webinar on space law and policy. For those who don't know the SGAC mentoring program, we organize normally 2 rounds per year where we connect mentees and mentors in the space field from all over the world. This is our 2nd official year, and we regularly organize webinars on different topics that are of interest of our mentors and mentees. We will start with a quick introduction of the SGAC mentoring program team members, and then I will introduce our speakers today, and we will start the webinar. Okay, so first of all, my name is Montse Del Riego. I am co-founder and team member of the SGAC mentoring program. I am living in Italy and currently working for the European Space Agency at the third-party missions program at the Directorate of Earth Observation. I pass now the floor to my colleagues, Victoria, Shaina, and Katie. Victoria, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Montse. Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Dapoyon. I'm an aerospace engineer working at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, teleworking from Virginia for almost a year. So I'm a co-lead of the mentoring space SGAC mentoring program since almost 2 years, 1.5 years. So we are really excited. Feel free to join the program. We'll put more information in the chat also. And if you have any questions, just reach out. And happy Wednesday, happy Hump Day, and good webinar to everybody. Katie, if you want to go next.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Brinker. I'm a PhD candidate in electrical engineering at Iowa State, and I also work for NASA Goddard in the telecommunications branch. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming today. And Shaina?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shaina Hume. I'm a PhD pre-candidate at the University of Colorado Boulder, where I am researching Martian entry, descent, and landing. And I just returned from an analog astronaut mission, which is why my video is off, because I am not yet presentable for camera. Super excited to come back just in time for this webinar.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. And now, welcome again to the SGAC mentoring webinar on space law and policy. We have today 4 amazing speakers, and all of them involved with SGAC in some way, who will share their experiences working on the space law field. Also, they will share with you some of the ongoing projects they are working on. And after the presentation, there will be a 30 minutes Q&A session where they will be answering all your questions. So please write your questions in the chat, and we will be collecting them if they are addressed to our speakers, and if they are related to our mentoring program, we will answering you there directly. So let's start with our speakers. I will share my screen now with the presentation. Let me know if you can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so, oh, sorry. I think I am started in a, let me, sorry, technical problems today. Okay, now I will share again my screen. Sorry for that. Okay, so let me. Today we have 4 amazing speakers. First one is Antonino Salmieri, doctoral researcher in space law, specialized in lunar government. Welcome, Antonino. We also have Ioana Bratu, a researcher and lecturer on artificial intelligence and space law. And we have also Kyran, Grattam, and Giuliana, Rotola, Space Law and Policy Project Group Co-Leads from the SGAC project group. So they will be also talking about the project group, and they will present all the ongoing projects that they are working now. So let's start with Antonino.
Hello, can you hear me? I hope so. Okay. So thank you for having me. It's really a great pleasure to be here for my second mentoring webinar. I remember I did the first one. It was maybe last year this time. So it's great to be back, and thank you for having me. So my name is Antonino Salmieri. I am Italian, but I am based in Luxembourg. So the purpose of these 2 slides that I'm going to share with you is to basically give my story. I'll try to be brief, so then you can we can save as much time as possible for the questions. I'm sure that that could be much more fun for you just to hear than to hear whatever I have to say. So I am a lawyer. I hold 3 law degrees. So I started studying at the University of Catania, where I took my master's degree in law. Then I specialized in law and government of the European at the Luis University of Rome. And then I took an advanced LLM in air and space law at the University of Leiden. Now, you see this 3, let's say, degrees that I took in a sort of connection at the moment, but when I was studying them, I had no idea of what I wanted to do next. I knew some things, but I were connecting the dots as I was going by. And at the end of the day, this in policy and in law, I think as well, that you have the freedom and the possibility to adjust the path as you go, and then to make yourself where you feel more comfortable. So it took some time for me to go from general law to space law. But in the meantime, I took a series of steps that I think are quite useful to whatever I'm doing today. And indeed, at the moment, I am a PhD candidate at the University of Luxembourg, where I'm working on enforcement challenges of space mining regulations. And basically, again, the story of how I got my PhD is very much related to this step-by-step approach that I took towards the subject that I now am specialized. I'm also an active member of SGAC. I am the co-lead of the Space Exploration Project Group, and I'm also the lead of a new initiative that is specifically dedicated to policy. I'll tell you about in a minute. Another great community that I joined and that I would recommend you to join is the International Space University. I did the Space Studies program in 2019, and I actually feel very lucky because that was right before the pandemic basically blocked every in-person ISU activity for the year 2020, and hopefully now in 2021 it will be possible to resume. And then I'm also a registered attorney, so although I like to speculate and discuss legal things in a more academic way, I also try to keep myself anchored to the realities of the law, which I think is very important, not to lose sight of the practical dimension. I think it's always important to keep. So that's why I qualified as an attorney in Italy, and I still decide just to, again, refresh that attitude that I think it's important to be effective in space law. And then I try to cooperate and work with different organizations, and especially those who would take on a sort of multi-stakeholder approach. An example is the E.A.G.L.E International Space Resources Governance Working Group, which was created and worked for 4 years on the topic of space mining regulation. I was an observing group, and I think it was a very great experience to see how new policy is developed in a multi-stakeholder, multilateral, intergenerational way. And that experience was very helpful for me, because now I'm part of another consortium called Global Expert Group on Sustainable Lunar Activities, which is basically taking the same approach for the regulation of the moon. One story that I wanted to share with you, the story of the E.A.G.L.E project. So maybe we can move to next slide, please. Thank you. I wanted to report this because it shows that everyone can make a difference in policy, and especially in space policy. So what is the E.A.G.L.E project? It's an action team of the Space Generation Advisory Council, of which I am the lead. It has been established last year with the purpose of voicing the position of the young generations on lunar governance. But the story of how it was born, it's a very simple story. It was an idea that I had, and that I presented to the SGAC executive director. At the time, it was Steve Clementine, but Davide was already a deputy. So I spoke with both of them. I said, there is a lot of debate going on lunar governance from different organizations, but they're doing this without taking into account the position of the young generation. And the reason is not that they don't want to take it into account, it's that there is nobody representing it. Nobody is promoting that in the debate. So I said we should do that as SGAC, the young generation of the United Nations, and I believe we should have a team and discuss this. So that's what we did. We had a team in June 2020, and then from August we kicked off, and we've done, I think, a pretty interesting work. We are about to finish it. So you will hear from us in a couple of weeks when we will present you the conclusions of our work. But in essence, this is the proof that anyone in SGAC can make a difference, and anyone in policy can make a difference if you have the right motivation, if you are active, if you're ready to work enough, and also if you take action. The thing is, you got to be proactive. So what we did with the E.A.G.L.E project after being established is that we spoke with different stakeholders from the space community. We did at the end 21 interviews, which is a lot. And Giuliana, who is in the team with me, can tell you that it was not easy, but it was definitely fun and productive. Then from that, based on those interviews and based on the analysis that we have done on the lunar policy landscape, we produced a report which includes a status quo analysis. So what has been done so far, what has been discussed so far, and then a way forward, which is the proposals and the ideas of the young generation for the use of the moon, and not just any use. We are driven by ability, adaptiveness, inclusiveness, and effectiveness. And now, at the end of our work, we are just at the beginning of it, actually, because we developed the report, but now we want to implement it. So again, young generation should not just say, this is what we think, and then, you know, it's on the table and who knows what happens, but you should be proactive in implementing what you want to do. And again, in policy, and especially in space policy, this is after the E.A.G.L.E report will be released in mid-May. We will begin, and we are in fact already working with states and delegations in UN Corpus, but in general, in the broader space community, to implement our viewpoints. So we will call you to action, and we hope to rely on your support for, you know, a movement that can unite young generations as the catalyst of a broader discussion on lunar governance. And this example, you know, I did it for the moon because I really love the moon and I care about it, but you could do it for anything you like. You could do it for space traffic management, space debris. If you think something should be done, do something and gather with the other people that want to do something, and then results will happen if you work enough. So that is my message for you. I hope I was in the time, and looking forward to your questions. Feel free to, you know, write to me in the chat, or, you know, get my contacts from the organizers. Indeed, you can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn, or my SGC email. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to further discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonino. Very, very interesting career path you're taking. You have all the contact information of Antonino here, and if not, we will let you know after the event if you're interested in it. Let's go with Ioana Bratu.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Ioana Bratu. You can switch to the next slide. Long story short, actually, this was a very nice exercise for me to try to wrap everything that has happened over the last 11 years in only one slide. So I have graduated law school back in 2009 in Bucharest in Romania. So I'm originally from Romania, and after graduating, I have rapidly started working as a corporate lawyer, part of an international law firm based in UK. After that, I have switched to a more Central Eastern approach. I have moved to a law firm based in Austria. This happened for 6 years. After that, I have joined the other side of the legal profession as a legal counsel, part of an oil and gas company, again, based in Austria. And before starting my own private practice, I have joined an executive MBA, part of Vienna University of Economics and Business, because I was preparing myself to become a legal entrepreneur. I wanted to have my own law firm, and therefore I did not choose the classical way of pursuing a master in law. I wanted to extend my universe a little bit to get out of, of my comfort zone and to approach things differently. After all these experiences, I felt that it's time to give back to the society, not specifically to the society where I grew up or in the Austrian society where I've also worked. I have moved more to the northern side of Europe, and now I'm based in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, where I am working as a lecturer and researcher, part of Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Briefly, next slide. for mentioning my current life at Amsterdam Law and Technology Institute. AFFILIATIONS is a new institute, more like a collaboration between departments that I have helped establish at Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Here, I am a board member, and among many other things, so my core preoccupation is introducing space law, part of our educational curricula. I am also a lecturer, so I teach mainly space law, but also AI governance and liability. A struggle that we all have in academia is to keep our teaching strongly connected to our research focus. Until now, I have managed to do that because in addition to my preoccupations of introducing space law at VU, I'm also pursuing my PhD, and my focus is on the intersection of artificial intelligence with space law. I'm mainly looking at the liability aspects. My PhD is developed, is based on a collaboration between two experts at part of the law faculty of Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, in charge with coordinating the technology law part of my research, and with the space law part, I am under the supervision of Professor Frans van der Dunk from Nebraska University. In addition to all these, because it doesn't seem enough, I'm also a legal expert in a capacity building project. If there are some colleagues working at academia, you know that academia is operating a lot based on external funding. So I have, in 2019, when I have joined VU, I have applied for a grant, part of several initiatives of the Dutch government, and I was lucky enough to win the grant, and now I am the lead expert for building capacities at the law faculty of Universitas Indonesia. As a new aspect and my core preoccupation with introducing space law at VU, I can mention that starting with spring 2022, so the next year, I will be teaching the new space law master course called Law and Governance of Outer Space Technologies. So if by any chance you're interested to study space law more from a technological law perspective, please feel free to get in touch. In terms of affiliations, briefly, next slide, I have recently joined the International Institute of Space Law, European Center of Space Law. I'm also Antonino's colleague on this new group, part of Moon Village Association. And here I am a mentor. Hopefully I will have time to engage in other activities as well. I am open to any questions. You can find my contact details on the last slide. I have tried to be as brief as possible. I have been teaching today, and if my voice sounds a little bit weird, that's to blame, but I think that it's a great opportunity to be here, especially today when while I was teaching space law at VU, the European Parliament adopted the EU space program. So I think it's you have chosen the perfect date for this meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ioana. Thank you for your presentation. Very, very interesting too. And I forgot to say that you are one of our mentors this year. So thank you also for that. Okay, let's go to the next presentation, which is the presentation on a Space Law and Policy Project Group with Giuliana, Rotola, and Kyran Grattam. Please.
Yes, thank you. I think you can go to the next slide. We are the two co-leads of the Space Law and Policy Project Group. I started just a few months ago, and Kyran, I think now it's about 1 year, co-lead of the project. We have many projects. We will discuss later about it, but just to tell you something about my career path, I started as a law student at the University of Trento. I really didn't like law. It took to me forever, like I took 8 years to graduate because I really didn't like it. But then I found out that there was this space law aspects of international activities. So I decided to do some research, and I wrote my thesis on the weaponization and the prevention of an arms race in outer space in Paris. I went for a few weeks to research in the ACSL, the European Center for Space Law within ESA, and in the IDEST. I don't remember the French name, I don't speak French, but it's the Institute of Professor Philippe E.A.G.L.E on the law of technology and telecommunication. And after that, my first real law experience with other space law students or potential space law students was the summer course that ACSL organized every year in a different city in Europe. So it's mostly open to young, to students, but also young professionals are admitted. And this year, I think, will be fully online. It was supposed to be in last year or this year also in Lisbon. When I did it, it was in Helsinki. I don't know, also Kyran did it, I don't know in which city. But so every year, apart from the pandemic years, of course, it's in a different city in Europe. So it's super useful and it's really a great introduction for students. It's just 2 weeks of space law and policy. You get to know many space professionals. So it's really a great course. After that, so I started thinking what to do. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anything in space law. So I just started sending email to all the university and research center in Europe. And I found an internship at the Leuven Center for Global Governance Studies. And during my internship there, I started participating in student competitions. Like I did my first presentation at the Young Lawyer Symposium that is also organized by the European Center for Space Law. So really, especially if you're an European student, check it out and follow the activities of this center. And also I participated in the first SDG Space for SDGs competition. So I sent a paper on the SDG on water for all. And that was also a great activity organized by UNOSA and SGAC. So that is also another wonderful activity that can introduce you better to the space sector. And through this experience, I've started meeting more people in the space law sector, and I found out about the International Space University. So I applied for that and I did my master last year. And the one very important thing is that everyone knows about how cool is the International Space University. Many people in the space sector have been attending this university. But one thing that is not very well advertised, I think, is that there are always lots of scholarships. So it seems super expensive, but in reality, if you find a scholarship, and there are many scholarships, it's not that expensive. Like for example, for my master, I won the Italian Space Agency scholarship that covered the whole expenses of the master. So I got everything covered plus more money for survival in Strasbourg, which is very cool. So you saw this, you see these prices that seems crazy, never affordable, but the reality is that you just need to find some scholarship, apply, get to talk with people in ISU, and it's way more accessible than it seems. And now, after the master, I started my research internship at the European Southern Observatory. I'm working on the impact of satellite constellations on astronomy. And together with my internship, I did some fellowship. The first one with the Open Lunar Foundation on lunar governance, then another one with the Foresight Institute. And this summer, I will start a fellowship with the Legal Priorities Project on planetary defense and philosophical long-termism. So I'm interested in every aspect of space activities. I'm also part of the E.A.G.L.E team with Antonino. So I think the cool thing in space is there are so many interesting topics that it's even difficult to choose what you want to do, because there are so many cool things that you just need to study, learn more, and then probably you will find your exact path in life on what you like more. And I think, Kyran, maybe it's your turn to introduce
Yeah, let's
yourself.
go. Right, I'll be 2 minutes. Next slide, please. So, I took an arts degree in Tilburg University, a small university in the south of the Netherlands. And I was doing some law classes and I saw space law in a textbook. And then I planned my life from there. So the same summer, I went to the ECSL summer course which was in Rome, Italy, was elected to represent my fellow students at the ECSL at ESA headquarters in Paris and represent their interests. Following that, I got handsome scholarships to go to Leiden University and get a LLM. By the way, in between time, I also got my bachelor and graduate degrees. The space law one was an advanced degree. I did a little internship, did a little bit of work for the Hague Space Resources Working Group. That very same summer, I finished my thesis and did a 2-month-long summer course, the Space Studies program that Antonino mentioned, which was paid for by ESA and a Dutch space foundation run by one of my most cherished professors, Tanja Massonswaan at Leiden University. And after I finished all of this education, this was my plan. Afterwards, I didn't have a job. So then I worked at McDonald's to pay for Christmas presents and pay for rent and stuff like that. Meanwhile, co-leading the Space Law and Policy Project Group, which we'll talk about in a sec. I got a job teaching at a medical school in the last 12 months, which was great because I could teach academic English. I'm pretty good at that. None of this that really has to do with space, does it? But it pays for what to sustain myself and keep myself going with a passion that I've had for many years and I'm educated in. So I did voluntary stuff like I'm in an IAF working group. You can pay to be an International Institute of Space Law member if you stick around for long enough, and they do great work. But I think in the last month, I got my first space job, which was as a junior associate at the Breakthrough Initiatives, which is a non-profit foundation doing some excellent searches for extraterrestrial life and intelligence. So not very like spacey kind of, oh yeah, this was all great and I'm heavily involved in space. You do it in your own time when you're a young person a lot of the time, and you have to ask for funding and so on as much as you can. Contact details are there, by the way. But we'll move on to the next slide. And this is forgoing all of the personal things that happen to you during that time that you have to just deal with, which I think people overlook. At the Space Law and Policy Project Group, we have many activities. We have 6 research teams. We do long-term sustainability research, constellations research, which is a venture between us and the Space Safety and Sustainability Project Group, which is led by none other than my dear co-lead, Giuliana Rotola. We do human rights research, looking at Earth observation, space resources, vis-a-vis planetary protection on Mars. We do disarmament research, interviewing experts around the world, and we try to build capacity in different nations, whether that's professional webinars, helping draft policies or whatever. So the rest of the, Giuliana's heavily involved, and we're synchronized like Gemini, but she'll explain the rest.
Yeah, so one thing I forgot to say, that I've also nothing comes easy. I've also been a waitress for 10 years and babysitting families here and there. So the space field, especially for space law academics, is not very easy, but you will find your way. So for the rest of the activities, we also have a task force on US space legislation. We have different teams working on policy memos, studying the legislation in the US, dealing with space activities. We have a congressional strategy group, and with this task force, we are writing some policy memo. Each of the memos is led by a different person, and we are presenting this memo to congressional people. So we already had 3 or 4 meetings with congressional people, and we are advocating for the issues that for us are very urgent to be addressed by politicians in the US. But our team is international, so in every meeting there are US people, international people, so it's really open for everyone. Then we have a communication team that is dealing with newsletter, our social medias. We have some blog posts, so you can check it out on our SGAC page. And we have some ad hoc activities. So for example, we answer to the questionnaire that are submitted every year to UN Corpus by the delegations at Corpus. We have we collaborate with other project groups. For example, the Constellations team has some collaboration also with the Safety and Sustainability Project Group. We organize events in collaboration with other parties. So we really have lots of activities. I think you can go to the last slides. That is just to show that we have many meetings. We meet every 2 weeks. Our Saturdays are usually very busy, but you don't have to participate in every meeting. Me and Kyran are just in meetings between 2 in the afternoon to 8 in the evening, almost every Saturday, but you can choose what you want to do and take part in the meetings you prefer. We are all nice people. We have cats, birds, dogs attending our meeting as well, as you can see in this picture. So we are nice people. Please join our team. This is it.
You're amazing.
Thank you, Giuliana and Kyran. Sorry, you were going to say something?
No, just that we will post in the chat our contact details.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. Very, very interesting topics that you are working on this project group. And you will find the participants will find the contact in the chat. And that's it. Thank you for participating. These are our contacts for the mentoring program in case you are also interested in joining us. And let's start now with the Q&A. So I will stop sharing my, okay. So we have questions, I think Katie and Victoria, I think that they were collecting questions.
Yeah, so we have a list of questions here. There's a few about the mentoring program. I think we can get to those at the end. But for our panelists, here's a question about, would you recommend law classes or lectures for people interested in space but not currently on a degree plan?
Yeah, sure, why not? I did an arts degree. I did a minor in a law program, and that enabled me to do a master's degree with enough hours in law class and your exam results. You can get into law school, especially if you want to transfer to the same law school as your art school or your engineering school or your science faculty, whatever. So I did it, and I think I should nonetheless preface any further remarks and say that law classes, accredited law classes, will get you credits that will practically help you at university. But there are so many resources that are available. You can either read books, watch webinars, get involved in research with the project groups. We share resources with each other. So I would recommend kind of learning law if you're interested in space law and policy. Learn space law especially because it's a kind of special set of rules in a lot of cases. But yeah.
Great. Did any of the other panelists want to add to that at all, or ready for the next question?
And I just wanted to add that we have, for example, in our teams, many people that are not law students. So we are really helping them learning together about law. Of course, especially in this period, you can find many online resources and many opportunities to learn more. So if you are interested in this field, probably you can start by attending, for example, a summer course or like short summer courses like the ACSL one, and try to understand what it is about, if you like it or not, or just start meeting with people that are working in the field and understanding what are the most relevant issues, how it is connected to what you are doing. So I think space is super interdisciplinary, and it's easy to get connected and learn more about law, even if you are not a lawyer, space lawyer.
Great. And it looks like we've been having a few questions here in the chat too about just, you know, what's the process for getting involved in a project group like the Space Law and Policy Project Group? And once you are involved, how do you get, you know, involved with a specific project? Are you assigned? Do you pick?
Yeah.
What's the time commitment? Those kind of things. So if you could elaborate on
Okay.
those, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, can do. So if you send either one of us an email, then you will receive in response a document which has links to everywhere we work, our Google Drive, where you can check out what we're doing, minutes, materials like different working papers. And I'm missing something here. Oh, and yeah, there's a form that you can fill in where all the roles are listed for the different teams, and then the leads of our different research teams will take you on board.
Great. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, here's another question. How has SGAC's workings made a difference to the field of space law?
Great question. Try and answer it. I mean, there is a whole history of SGC activities making a significant impact on, you know, the realities of space law and policy, but not just space law and policy, also, you know, space exploration and others. So again, I can give you the example of the E.A.G.L.E team. With the work that we're doing, we met with different stakeholders, including major companies on lunar activities with space agencies, governments, institutions, and we are looking to present our work at the UN. So because SGAC has this connection with the UN, it is a very established reputation. There are a lot of different possibilities that will help you make a difference and will, let's say, strengthen SGAC role as a leading institution, I would say, for discussions that we have. And I even think we could do more than that. So I think there are a lot of connections, and then it's just about using them in the right way and coordinating them the right way to make an impact. And I think SGAC has always been a master in that, but I don't know if the others would like to add.
Well, I think that Drew can mention all kinds of stuff. She's very she keeps a close eye on the stuff we do in the UN, for example, and different. Maybe you can say what we're getting up to.
Yeah, for example, with the UN Corpus questionnaire that I mentioned before, every delegations have the possibility of answering to specific legal question related, for example, to the limitation of outer space, to the application of the treaties, to the national legislations on small satellites. So we really have the opportunity of giving our written opinion as much as all the other delegates to the UN do. So it's really, and these questionnaires are made available on the UN website, and every delegation can read those and understand better about these issues. So you really have the opportunity of giving young people voice to international fora. So it's where I think SGAC is doing a great job in this sense.
Great. And here's another question. Are there topics with more opportunities for policy rather than law? And how would you panelists describe the differences between law and policy for those of us that maybe aren't as familiar?
I'd love to hear Ioana's answer to this, because she operates in a space of like business and academia and practice.
Yes, thank you. I would describe the difference between policy and law whenever I get this frequent question from students, like from a relationship from general to special. So the policy is a more broader concept. It involves the vision of a parliament. What concerns future legislation, and then the legislation is actually a small part of the policy implementing the policy. I've seen also some questions about should I continue or should I stick to this one?
Sure. Whatever works best for you.
I see someone asking if they can join courses on space law and policy if they are a student during their bachelor.
A Bachelor of Arts, yeah, that was a question.
There are many multidisciplinary summer courses. For example, this is quite of a trend happening in international universities. For example, last year, I have organized a summer course on multidisciplinary aspects of artificial intelligence. So I've looked at AI basically from Earth to space. And my requirement for the course was prohibiting the organizers from a very conservative university such as Freie Universität. So I have allowed students with multiple backgrounds to join, because even if it was organized part of the law faculty, it doesn't necessarily need to be written law on your diploma in order to join the course. And this added significant value to the class. So I would recommend you to check the requirements with the organizers and try to find a more innovative course allowing you to join. I think that even if you're enrolled in a Bachelor in Arts, you should definitely be allowed to join a space law and or policy course.
Yeah, and I should say, when I did my first summer course, I had a graduate law degree. So that was kind of, well, or at least I was in the process of getting one when I applied, so a bit easier for me. But still, I mean, like, we work with engineers and international relations students, all different types, and they have valuable input. So as long as I'm at least trying to change things for young people, then making law and policy opportunities open to all is something that I'm quite invested in. Not because I've felt much pressure myself, but because people just have so much to give and people are so interested in it.
There is a tendency in the younger generation, if I can express myself like this, because we're all young here, but some of us are a little bit younger. There is a tendency toward multidisciplinary profiles, indeed, but the struggle in developing a law career is that the law environment is quite traditional. So I highly recommend those of you who are interested in pursuing law as a career to have some discipline in your choices, in the sense of being able to provide a story in your CV. So as you've seen in all the presentations today, there is a story behind the scenes. So you need to have cursivity, and it needs to make sense. So even if you have multiple interests, try to remain focused on long-term careers, which is a fancy word for the times that we're living, because long-term these days it's really difficult to plan. But yeah, you need to be consistent a little bit. And with the summer courses, for example, if you're doing again a Bachelor in Arts, but you don't want a career in law, so I think it makes sense that it's a smart choice not to pursue a law faculty and just to engage in a summer course. And that's very good also, because another thing that I would like to mention, even if we these days we have access to a lot of information, I always recommend my students with multiple interests to follow their interests in an institutionalized manner, such as a summer course. At the end of the summer course, you get a certificate. You can post it on LinkedIn, advertise it on Twitter, etc. So even whenever you have a passion, try to have a document showing your passions. That would be my advice. Thank you.
Also, I want to add also to what Ioana said, that you can also find connection with your passions. Like it's important having it set in an academic way, but there are some connections that are not clearly visible, so you have to look for them. For example, I didn't mention before that when I was in high school, I wanted to pursue an archaeology career or history of art or something like that, and I didn't do it because you don't get so many jobs in archaeology in Italy. But then I found out that I could do archaeology, space law, and space with For All Mankind, for example, that is dealing with the preservation of historical sites and the heritage sites. So there are connections that are not really visible, but if you have a passion, you have multiple passions, you can for sure find a way of connecting them and find a way, even in an institutionalized way, to pursue all your passions together.
Great. So here's another question that we got previously, and someone is interested to know how artificial intelligence is being introduced into policy building activities, and kind of explaining a little bit more the connection between AI and space law and all these different pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in here, obviously. No, Ioana, of course, this is the question for you.
Please be my guest. I've been talking all day. I would love to hear. Definitely, long story short, in my opinion, you cannot discuss about you can no longer discuss about space law without approaching technology law. But this is a quite of a new trend that is developing. I haven't seen a lot of papers with this approach, and this is why these days my struggle is real in my PhD. And this is why I wanted to introduce a new way of approaching space law and a new way of teaching space law, because space law is special in the sense that it's driven by technology. Yeah, we had the moment of 1957 with Sputnik 1 launch. Space law exists because of the evolution of technology. So it seems to me that dealing with space law without slightly understanding the technology and without understanding technology regulations might be a little bit difficult. Of course, there are more traditional ways of approaching space law, but I feel that the trend is here. And I'm also lucky that because I have Franz von der Dunk, I have a holistic way of approaching things. So also the traditional, the basics are covered, but there is also the possibility for me to build and extend notions, traditional notions. I can go on forever, but I need to stop. You can always, I'm not sure who asked, you can always contact me and we can have a separate discussion about this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So it looks like we are getting towards the end of the panel, and we've made our way through many of these questions. I think here's one we haven't touched on is, are there any policy regulations or strong recommendations in place for asteroid mining or just space mining in general? Is that an area that has seen more developments or not so much?
See, Kyran is pointing at me, so I feel I have to answer this question. Yes, there is a lot of developments taking place, actually. So it all began in 2015 when the United States passed the first legislation ever allowing their citizens to conduct space resource activities in a commercial way. There, it basically started a tsunami of different proposals and discussions that tend to, let's say, regulate the issue of space resources. So first of all, discussing whether it is illegal to do space resource activities, and then how to regulate it, whether it should be regulated at the international level, at the domestic level, a compromise of the two of them. So different organizations are taking their own position. For instance, I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, the E.A.G.L.E International Space Resources Governance Working Group was constituted in 2016 with the exact purpose of bridging and putting together different experts from all over the world to discuss, the regulation of space resource activities. They developed 20 building blocks, which you can find online. I would definitely recommend to read them. There is also a commentary that you can read online, and that will already give you an understanding of what is the starting point of the global discussion for space resources. Then you can look at the COPUS meetings. Again, they're publicly available online since I think 2016 again. There is an agenda item in the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Use of Space discussing the regulation of space resources. Maybe a working group will be established next year. So keep on. Then different organizations like the Moon Village Association, the Open Lunar Foundation, and the Outer Space Institute, at least as far as I'm aware, they have released their own policy proposals for space resources, lunar resources. There is companies that are trying to pursue this as an economy. So you may want to check out iSpace, which is a multinational company based in China, the United States, and they want to enable lunar mining. There is a UK company called the Asteroid Mining Corporation, which is indeed focused on asteroid mining, and much more than that. But I think it could take forever if I would have to list all the developments. But in short, there is a lot going on. There is a lot of room for people to contribute. So please consider, space resources. In Luxembourg, we have a master, an interdisciplinary specifically focused on space resources if you would like to educate yourself about it. Otherwise, just send me an email and we can have more discussions.
Great. And yeah, as Mate put in the chat too, we will send the recording of this webinar to all the participants. We've also been putting the recordings of our webinars up on the SGAC YouTube page. So if you want to go back and look there in a week or so, that this webinar may be available there as well. So you will be able to access this contact information through there too if you didn't grab it from the slides earlier or the chat previously. Are there any other final thoughts or anything else that the panelists would want to add before we get into these last couple of questions about the mentoring program and wrap up?
I have just one final suggestion, because I see often people, for example, attending ISU or other universities thinking, okay, I will go to ISU and I will find a job straight after, or I will go to summer course and then I will find the job of my life. And it is not like this. It's really complicated to find your path, and it requires a lot of commitment. So of course, you don't need to lose your sleep every night, but you need to put yourself out there and get to know people, try to do new experience, participate in competition, submit abstracts to conferences. It's really important to show your commitment and to understand how the space law world works, because no one will come to you and ask you if you want to have a job, because it's super difficult. We all find struggles in this world, so you really need to show how important it is and what you want to do, and I don't know, show your passions and show that you are a valid person.
Ioana, do you want to say something?
Just wanted to confirm what Giuliana was mentioning, and my life philosophy is to interpret no as the next opportunity. So if you ever hear the word no, just read it like that, and it's important not to give up and follow your dream. So yeah, good advice.
Nino, what's your final thought?
Well, I mean, be proactive. You gotta do something in order to get something. I think that is the message. And in space, I think you have more opportunities. This is my opinion. Obviously, I'm not talking about jobs in general. More opportunities because it's a small community. Once you get yourself known, you get to know a lot of people, and then if you are there, something will happen. But nothing happens if you do not move. So I think start with that. Obviously, not everybody that does things in the space community work in the space community. But if you're passionate about it, you can have your job, and then in your free time, you can participate in policy and law development of space, and then one day you will also get a job. But do not wait to be paid to do stuff in the space community, because otherwise, as Giuliana said, it can take a long time. But you can make a contribution anyways, in any way you want. The thing is, you need to start, and then you need to show the people, to be proactive, start a blog, write, do something. I know people that became famous, or at least known, on Twitter, just commenting and tweeting everything. So make yourself known, and I'm sure results will come.
if I can add something to that thought, actually SGAC is a very good platform to start to get known in the space field. So join the project groups, go to events, join our mentoring program, because it will help also you to find a mentor that maybe can give you some advice in your career path. Also in the space law field, we have Ioana, for instance, that is one of our mentors. So you will find a lot of people. So I think that SGAC is the best way to enter this small community, as Antonino said, that you can make a space for you in that.
Great. And Kyran, did you have any other final thoughts that you wanted to add as well, or?
Yeah, two things. So I got where I am, I think, because I have ideals, and none of them are based on the hunger for power or the hunger for money. And so that has guided me, at least when you're faced with hardship. If you've got higher ideals in mind, and you push through. And then the last thing is help each other. If you see a job that you don't want, give it to someone else. If you see a job that you want, apply, but share it. There's a lot of money in space, sure, but young people don't get taken on as readily, and some policies from HR you wouldn't believe. So be confident, believe in yourself, and don't compromise on going where you want to go.
Great, thank you. So Victoria put in the chat a link to the form for our email list for the fall round of this mentoring program. And there was also a question about how often do we have these webinars. We've been having them about every 6 weeks, but you know, SGAC itself has a ton of webinars going on. You can find them on the SGAC website. They have a calendar of events. And then I believe that's it for the questions. So Monse, Victoria, Shayna, do you have anything else to add as we wrap up?
Thank you everybody for joining today. Thank you for the great speakers. Congratulations to Monse for organizing this webinar. It was really, really nice. And yeah, for all mentoring questions, just please feel free to email us at mentoring@spacegeneration.org. And feel free to register on the Google form if you're interested to join the program. And we're really excited to organize more webinars and to have you join the team. And stay safe. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Shayna, do you have something more to add?
No, honestly, Victoria said that perfectly. It was wonderful getting to hear everyone talk today, and this webinar emerged because people asked for a specific topic to be covered. So keep engaging with us, keep asking for, you know, what you want, and we will do our best to bring that to you. Thank you so much for attending and for all of the amazing panelists and great questions.
Okay, so thank you all for attending today. Thank you to the panelists. You are awesome. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And yes, Victoria said you have a form that you can fill if you are interested to become a mentee for our next round. Mentors applications are open. Are always open, so you can apply as a mentor whenever you want. And mentees one are only open 2 times per year. So the next one will be around September. So feel free to fill the form, and we will let you know when they are opening. Thank you again to everyone, and it was awesome to have you. Thank you all.